You're listening to the Lanterns Radio Network. We are the network dedicated to empowering the individual, illuminating the truth, defending American exceptionalism, and inspiring future generations. Stay connected and get involved at lanterns.buzz for great radio. Get commentary and news of the day. Lanterns.buzz.
Welcome, fellow patriots. Get ready for an hour of unabashedly pro-American, pro-conservative, and pro-biblical principles. This is the Blake Johnson Program.
Well, hello everyone. Welcome to the program. It is great to be back with you. Hope you enjoyed your Labor Day weekend. Hope you got as much as you could have out of a communist holiday, which I still wonder why people celebrate, honestly. But, in this day and age, we might as well keep celebrating the very system that we seem to be heading closer and closer towards. That's obviously a very uplifting way to start the show, but it's great to be here with you. It seems like every single week, the amount of news stories that come out in just 1 week are the amount of news stories that would have come out in a year 5 years ago. I mean, it is just bombarded with all kinds of news. You had the Brett Kavanaugh hearings take place. You had the New York Times op-ed piece from an anonymous senior official in the Trump administration that was being talked about a lot the past few days especially. Burt Reynolds, the actor, passed away a few days ago at the age of 82. Guy who played in the Smokey and the Bandit movie. Let's see what else you have. You had the Colin Kaepernick ad that Nike decided they would be more than happy to produce. And Alex Jones getting permanently banned from Twitter. And that's just a few stories. I haven't even scratched the surface on all the things that have happened in just the past week. But especially since we've been gone, it's just been insane. So I want to start with Alex Jones being banned permanently from Twitter. As you know, a few weeks ago on this podcast, I said that Twitter has every right, if they wanted to. Of course, it wasn't Twitter at the time. It was more along the lines of iTunes and YouTube and I think Facebook. A few major outlets decided that they wanted to ban Alex Jones from their platforms and ban his InfoWars website. And I said at the time, look, this is not a free speech violation. They have the right as private companies to be able to do that. And I stand by that. I do. However, I want to emphasize especially on this podcast that morally speaking, this is very troubling. Very troubling that Twitter would do this. So Twitter finally decided that not only would they temporarily suspend him, which they did earlier, they would permanently ban him and InfoWars from Twitter. And they said in a statement from the Twitter safety account that they removed them from Twitter and Periscope based on new reports of tweets and videos posted that violated their abusive behavior policy, in addition to the account's past actions. Now, I will admit that I have yet to see what specifically those videos and that content is that they're referring to. They were very vague the last time around when they temporarily suspended him. But I will say it is quite telling to see the hypocrisy from Twitter, the hypocrisy from Jack Dorsey, the guy who runs Twitter, especially when he said in a statement just a few weeks ago that they were not going to ban Alex Jones because he believes in more voices, not less. And until they violate their policies, they would continue to remain. Now, they claim that they have now violated their policies, but I have not seen specific examples of what they're talking about, and it's kind of hard to now that they're deleted. But let's just talk about this from a moral standpoint. And let's get into the double standard further. How in the world, let's just start with the obvious here. How in the world are they able to say, well, these people, Alex Jones and InfoWars, people at InfoWars, have violated our policies, and they've been very abusive, and they've been vile, and they've just been awful, awful people on our site, so we had to remove them. Yet at the same time, people like Louis Farrakhan and some racist groups and racist individuals, evil people, are still allowed to have accounts on their site. They're still allowed. Nazi groups and people who support Nazis are still allowed on Twitter. But that doesn't seem to be a violation of their public policy. Well, it would be somewhat helpful if they would explain specifically what that policy is and how come those other people and organizations don't fall under that same level of scrutiny. But they're not going to do that. So which begs the question, why Alex Jones? Now, Alex Jones is an easy target because Alex Jones is a moron. I've said this before, he's a conspiracy nut job, and he has also taken part in helping to ruin the lives of those affected at the Sandy Hook school shooting by claiming that the whole thing was fake and that the parents of the supposed dead children were faking it as well, and the children were just mere child actors, as were the parents. I mean, it doesn't really get much lower than that. So, I can't stand Alex Jones. And, you know, I have friends, or not really friends, but I guess you'd say at least one friend, but people I know who listen to InfoWars, who listen to Alex Jones, and think he's pretty great. And I don't begin to understand that. However, again, from a legal perspective, nothing wrong has been done here as far as I know. Twitter can do this if they want to. They're a private company. However, if you're going to claim to be a platform that welcomes any and all voices, then you have to stand by that. And if you're going to claim that you have policies, that there is a line and you cannot cross that line, then you have to fully explain what that line is and fully explain how that person violated those rules. And you have to be consistent across the board, because there's a lot of contradictions here. Now, there's people cheering for this. There's people that are very happy, both on the left, especially the left, but also some on the right as well, that are very happy that this happened, that Alex Jones was kicked off Twitter. Well, you're just making him out to be a martyr, for one thing. You're just making Alex Jones to be someone who is valid in his concerns and is valid in the things that he's saying, and the warnings that he's been signaling for years on his platform. You're just making him out to be more right because you're doing what he wants you to do in a way. Not saying that he wanted to be banned, but you're giving him the fuel that he needs to keep on going. And where does this end? Where does this end? Is this really something that we as Americans should be championing? I don't care whether or not you agree with him. I don't care whether you're a conservative or a Republican or a liberal or Democrat, progressive. I don't care what label you want to put on yourself. This isn't healthy. This isn't good. And if we are going to survive as a nation that was founded upon the freedom of thought, the freedom of speech, the idea that more voices should be heard, not less, then we shouldn't be celebrating this. Again, I'm not saying that we should force Twitter to conduct themselves how we think they should. I'm only saying we're heading down a slippery slope here. The government, the federal government, has a history as well of trying to silence voices. And we know this from recent history with the IRS scandal in the Obama administration and how they targeted conservatives with that group. I mean, you don't go up against the IRS and come out unscathed. You just don't. You saw this in the Nixon administration with the enemies list that he had of the people that he considered an enemy of his administration, many members of the press. And it's just, you had the sedition acts that took place during the Adams administration. Abraham Lincoln locking up journalists who were reporting unfavorably against the Union. I mean, I could go on and on. So it's not like this is something that we don't have to worry about. Oh, the federal government, they're not going to do that. They've done it before. And if we're so willing to turn a blind eye now, how can we dare make the case that people should have a right to speak in the future? I mean, think about it. We're saying that Alex Jones, we're justifying this by saying Alex Jones is a nut job and therefore his voice shouldn't be heard. But what about the people on the other side who think that people like Bill Maher are nut jobs, people like Michael Moore are nut jobs, people like Samantha Bee are nut jobs? You see what I'm saying? One group can say this other group is detestable, but then the group on the other side can say that your group is detestable. And the moment that we start silencing people, pretty soon there's not going to be anyone left with any sort of thought that can be heard because they've all been shut down. This is not healthy territory at all. I'm going to take a break and come back, and I want to go into this Colin Kaepernick deal, which is just infuriating to me. It really is. And that the amount of people that are just idiotically falling for this propaganda from Nike and Colin Kaepernick, it just simply has to be addressed. It really does. And I'm going to explain why this is important to discuss and why we should discuss it and why it should matter. So we'll do that, and then we'll also talk about the Kavanaugh hearings, which that's going to be fun, and a blast from the past in the form of Barack Obama warning us and lecturing us yet again about racism, discrimination, and bigotry. Oh, I can't wait to hear what he has to say. Right when we come back, stay tuned. So I was debating on whether or not I wanted to play the audio for you of Barack Obama the other day at a rally and the things that he said. And I decided, you know what? It's Monday. Mondays always suck anyway. Why would I do that to you? And you've probably already heard clips of him anyway. So let's just cut past all that and get down to the nitty-gritty. Let's really discuss what he said and why it's just full of hypocrisy. Now, I was thinking, from a casual observer, from someone who doesn't really pay much attention to politics, from someone who maybe once in a while turns on the news but just easily forgets what they saw or what they heard. If you listen to this speech from Obama, it sounds good. It sounds pretty good. It sounds unifying. And the sad truth is the left understands that most people don't pay attention. And you get this from everybody. I mean, that's why you hear the same thing over and over and over again on the radio. Just using an analogy here. You listen to the radio or you just hear a commercial on TV and they give out the phone number 3 or 4 times. Well, why do they do that? Well, because you're going to forget the number. Because you're occupied doing other things. I mean, it's just the very basic thing that I learned in broadcasting and speaking in general, just public speaking, is you want to repeat the main points multiple times so people remember and understand it. So, the Democrats know this, and they know that people often forget things, and they play on that. They also play on the fact that many people will start paying attention if you play with their emotions. If you go to the heart of the matter. And if you try to make them feel a certain way. Instead of using simple logic and facts, they will try to make you feel what they want you to feel. Because feelings trump facts. I know Ben Shapiro is famous for saying facts don't care about your feelings, and that's true, but many people live the opposite way. Feelings don't care about your facts. So Barack Obama is on stage, and he starts talking about, he actually gave a couple speeches over the weekend, and the first one, the one that I listened to some of, he starts talking about unity, saying how we need to be a unified country, and you have to get out and vote, and it's the most important time to vote, yada yada yada. Well, then he just jumps right back into classic old-fashioned Barack Obama that we know from the early years of his administration, continually pointing out how evil America is, and the racism that is plaguing our society, and how we've made so many mistakes, and, there's a lot that we've done that's wrong. He goes into this seems like every major speech, he has to at some point bring this up, as if somehow we don't know. We're inundated with that day in and day out anyway. Whether it's in the public school, whether it's you just turn on TV, on the news, depending on what network you listen to, and at some point someone has to bring it up. You hear it everywhere. At some point you will hear it again. So this is not a new message. But he has the gall, the unmitigated gall, to then go after Donald Trump, who I am obviously not a fan of, and say that Donald Trump is not the disease, he's merely a symptom of the disease. The disease being division, hatred, bigotry, malice, all these different negative things. Trump is merely a symptom of that. And I'm thinking, really? Coming from the guy who divided this country in more ways than most presidents could even dream of? That's pretty rich. That's pretty rich. From the same guy who said these crazy right-wingers who want to cling to their God and their guns. The same guy who said, I didn't want my daughter to be punished with a baby. With a baby? That same guy, the same guy who, when talking about his grandmother, his white grandmother, saying that she was the typical white person who sees someone of a different race and has this immediate reaction that isn't pleasant or that isn't positive. And he actually said that. Paraphrasing a little bit, but he said that. And he wants to talk about division. He wants to talk about stirring up chaos, stirring up hatred on both sides. I'm not even saying Barack Obama started it, but he certainly stepped on the gas as fast as he could. He had the opportunity to be a uniter, to be the first black president who finally said, you know what? Yes, we've made mistakes, but we're moving on. It's time that we put aside our differences, and it's time that we fight for something greater than ourselves. He had the opportunity to do that, but instead, he takes that opportunity and says that we've got to punish our enemies and punish those who aren't with us. He said that too. The same guy who lied to you and said that you can keep your doctor if you want. If you want to keep your doctor, you can keep that. If you want to keep your private insurance plan, you can keep that. Well, those were all lies. I know. Some of my friends can tell you that they have family members, acquaintances, loved ones who were dropped from their private insurance, who were dropped from getting coverage because they had private insurance, private health insurance. So he's a known liar. He's a known divider. He stirs up the pot, and then he has the gall to come out and say, it's time that we unite because we can't allow, basically saying we can't allow Trump to continue to divide us. Do you think we're that stupid? Well, the answer may be yes, at least for the people in that crowd. They are that stupid, and they will buy anything that he sells to them. So it's just another example of why I'm so glad that he's not president of the United States. Seriously, I don't think I could have dealt another. Thank goodness we have term limits, because I can't imagine having to deal with him for another 4 to 8 years, or however long he wanted to be in office. Because I about guarantee you, if we didn't have term limits, I would not be surprised if he won another election. I wouldn't. If he ran against Donald Trump, maybe. He might have not been able to pull that off if it was Donald Trump. But he might have. We'll never know, but he might have. Okay, now I want to get into this Colin Kaepernick thing that's really been driving me crazy. I'm sure you've heard of it. Nike decided that they wanted to release an ad, and all it is a close-up of Colin's face, and on the ad it says, believe in something, even if it means sacrificing everything. And then underneath it has the Nike logo with just do it. And this ad, as it was planned, sparked a ton of reaction. And in fact, initially when this came out, the stock dropped. Nike stock dropped. I believe they lost about $3 billion, something like that. but then it quickly rose. So all in all, Nike has been doing okay. In fact, it's actually gone up, which tells you all you need to know about where we are, yet again, as a society. Now, I'll get into that in just a moment, but first, let's just talk about this ad. This ad is so stupid for multiple reasons. Number one, just from a practical standpoint, why would you do this? Because Colin Kaepernick isn't in the NFL. He hasn't been in the NFL for a couple of years. So why are you using someone who isn't even doing sports right now? And isn't even doing anything significant with his life? Not that I've seen, or not that I've heard. You know, at least with LeBron James, he's actually doing something. What's Colin doing? What has he sacrificed? And that goes to the political aspect of this, which is the main aspect. And that's why did Nike decide to do this? Well, it's because they support Colin, and they support him taking a knee during the national anthem, which was what made him famous. He was one of the worst quarterbacks in the league. At that time, anyway. He had nothing going for him. He just did it as a publicity stunt. And I know, I'm going to hear, there's people that have tried to tell me, oh, Blake, this doesn't have anything to do with the national anthem. Really? So it's just a coincidence that of all the times that Colin Kaepernick decides to take a knee, it just happens to be right when the national anthem is playing. That's odd. It's almost like it was planned for that. Because of the national anthem. Because, you see, if he was taking a knee at other points during the game that had nothing to do with the anthem, you could make that case. But it's during the national anthem, so it does have everything to do with that anthem. Colin has even said himself that it does have to do with that. He doesn't like this country. He doesn't respect it. He doesn't think that America has made any sort of progress whatsoever. He thinks that the cops are pigs. He tattooed pigs. It was either tattoo or painted. I think it was tattooed pigs on his leg with police officer uniforms around them. So cops are pigs now. But no, this was fighting racial injustice. Oh, I see. Even though blacks are killing blacks far more than cops are, far more than whites are. Oh yeah, it's racial injustice. Well, if you want to talk about racial injustice, maybe look at your own race. If we're just speaking purely on facts here. Because blacks kill blacks far more than police or white people do. But people don't want to hear that. So you had that ad come out. And then, about a day or two later, they release a video. Nike releases a video, so they do another ad. Now this one, I think, is even more infuriating. It's bad enough when you have the picture of Kaepernick with saying, believe in something, even if it means sacrificing everything. Which, again, what the hell has he sacrificed? So that's bad enough. But now, there's a video ad, which actually starts out pretty solid. And it's talking about overcoming your struggles, your disabilities. And it has, clips of people who were born without legs, or who lost their legs or arms, or who had some sort of disability, and they were playing in sports. And even though they had disabilities, they still played in sports and did well. They still competed. So that's a great message. But then at the end of that video, it shows Colin Kaepernick standing there. And first of all, he's doing the voiceover, I believe, of that ad. But he's talking about people who sacrifice and people who give everything they have for a great cause. And then right as he says that, there's a shot of him standing in front of the camera. And I'm thinking, wow, you want to talk about the most arrogant tool? It's Colin Kaepernick. Saying, he's comparing himself to those people? Seriously? You are comparing, you spoiled rich brat, are comparing yourself to kids who don't have legs, who don't have arms, but are still fighting to be in sports and to compete? You really think you're on the same level as they are? You are a scumbag. You are a spoiled, rich, entitled, privileged punk. That is all you are. He didn't grow up in poverty. He was privileged all his life. He grew up in wealth. There's nothing wrong with that. Don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with that. But then to make it seem like you know just what it's like. You have no idea what it's like, you punk. No idea whatsoever. And I had friends of mine sharing that video and hitting the love option on it. Like they loved the video. And I'm thinking, what? What? Look, here's the thing. You don't even have to agree with me on the idea that America is not suffering from a preponderance of racial injustice. But can we at least agree that if you're going to fight for pointing that out, that there's somehow racial injustice, maybe not use Colin Kaepernick as your spokesperson. I'm just saying, maybe there are multiple other people you could use for that, instead of this guy. That's all I'm saying. But apparently I'm the crazy one. Apparently no one really wants to listen to that. No one wants to hear that. No, they just have to spew out their propaganda. There's an acquaintance of mine, not a friend, who shared a photo of Martin Luther King and a few others kneeling. And then there's like a little short paragraph underneath that picture that was trying to say, you know, Martin Luther King also believed in kneeling. They were kneeling in prayer. They were not protesting anything. They were praying together. In fact, I think there's a reverend that has his hand on Martin Luther King, I believe. I could be wrong about that. But it's very clear from the picture that they're praying. They're not protesting. I mean, if that really is kneeling, then the left should have had no problem with Tim Tebow doing the same thing when he was in the Denver Broncos. He was kneeling in prayer, and the left lost their ever-loving minds because of that. Oh, how dare you? How dare you do that? You're just trying to draw attention to yourself. And Colin Kaepernick isn't? He's an idiot. He is truly an insufferable idiot. And I'm not just saying that because, I'm mad and I just want to call him names. No, that really is what he is. He has no self-awareness whatsoever. So, to me, you know, and you had, a couple veterans. One in particular, I can't remember his name, but he said that he was the one that told Kaepernick to do that, to kneel. And I guess they're trying to use that as a case that, now what do you think? Now a veteran is saying that he's doing the right thing. Well, if you're a veteran and you're telling Kaepernick to do that, you are a disgrace. You are a disgrace. You have shamed your country because of that. I'm sorry. I'm not saying that your record, that the things that you did for this country in your military service was bad, but what you're doing afterwards clearly is not helpful. It is not helpful at all. So, no, I'm not all of a sudden going to back away from my views because veteran says something like that. No, it's equally stupid. In fact, maybe even more stupid. But there is some good news out of this. My alma mater, College of the Ozarks, decided that they are going to drop Nike. They've dropped Nike from their athletic gear and from all of their attire because of this. And in a statement, President Jerry Davis of C of O said that if Nike is ashamed of this country, then we are ashamed of them. He also said, paraphrasing, I believe you're far more likely to find a hero wearing a military uniform than an athletic uniform. And they said, look, Nike, you can do whatever you want. You have the freedom to do whatever you want with your business. But we also, as a private Christian college, have the right to drop you. And that's what we're going to do. So that story went a little viral. A lot of different sources picked it up. And I loved it. I absolutely love that story. And it's consistent with their values. It is consistent with their values of patriotism, with love of country, and with being responsible civil people. And I respect them for that. But the fact that there is an increasing amount of people that think this is okay is disturbing to me. To think what Kaepernick did is great. That's disturbing. Now, does he have a right to do that? Well, in that particular setting, no. Not at his job. The NFL could have very well said, you are going to stand while you're on the field. You're going to stand while you're working for us, while you're getting paid. If you want to do it on your off time, fine, but you're not doing it here. But, of course, the NFL, being the gutless weasels that they are, we're, of course, not going to do that. So, no, Kaepernick does not have a legal right to do that in that particular setting. But it is disturbing to see how many people think that Kaepernick is some sort of brave hero. He's not a hero at all. He's a selfish, entitled, ignorant jackass. That's what he is. At least LeBron James, who I don't obviously look to for advice when it comes to political matters, but at least he is doing something productive and positive for the community with his charter schools. That's great. At least he is putting his money where his mouth is. Where are you, Colin? Where are you? Back in a minute.
You're listening to the Lanterns Radio Network. We are the network dedicated to empowering the individual, illuminating the truth, defending American exceptionalism, and inspiring future generations. Stay connected and get involved at lanterns.buzz for great radio. Get commentary and news of the day. Lanterns.buzz.
Address a couple of stories that I saw over the weekend that just kind of irked me, really. And they both have to do with us having an increasing lack of personal responsibility. So Serena Williams, the very famous female tennis player, was competing in the U.S. Open final and lost to Naomi Osaka, a 20-year-old tennis player. And Serena completely threw a temper tantrum against the umpire. She was given 3 code violations by Carlos Ramos, who was the umpire, during her 6-2, 6-4 loss on Saturday. The violations were that she was getting coaching signals while she was playing, and that's against the rules. She broke her racket, which cost her a point, and she also called the chair umpire a thief, which cost her a game. She was fined a total of $17,000 for the violations. And she has been citing sexism as the reason why she lost and the reason why she was getting fined. She said that, quote, "You owe me an apology." She said to Ramos, "I have never cheated in my life. I have a daughter and I stand for what's right for her. I don't cheat to win, I'd rather lose." Then she said, "I've seen other men call other umpires several things. I'm here fighting for women's rights and for women's equality and for all kinds of stuff. For me to say thief and for him to take a game, it made me feel like it was a sexist remark." No, you're an idiot, Serena. You're a spoiled brat. Women's equality? You're the most famous female tennis player in the world. You've won countless numbers of championships. And you're very wealthy, obviously. So, where's the sexism? I mean, you clearly violated the rules. It doesn't matter. First of all, that's not. I would guarantee you that is not the same umpire that either did or did not give violations out to the men. And also, you're not the only one getting in trouble for violations. There are other tennis players, men, who are known for getting in trouble because of doing the same thing all the time. So it's not like, oh, the women are always the ones getting in trouble while the men, oh, they always get off scot-free. No. And to me, this is just childish. It's beyond childish. And the fact that you can get on TV and start complaining and saying, "Oh, I'm just being victimized. I'm being treated this way because I'm a woman." To me, it just shows that you can't just accept a loss gracefully. Again, you are the number one women's player, well, at least you were, before you got your butt kicked Saturday. And, I have to admit, I'm taking a bit of satisfaction in that. I mean, she just came out and supported Colin Kaepernick's kneeling protest, saying that he has every right to do it, when he does not. So, she's an ignoramus in multiple ways. So, I can't help but enjoy the fact that she lost. In fact, when I saw that she did lose, I was pretty happy about that. But regardless of that, I don't care who you are. To break your racket, to get coaching signals, to go up to the umpire, call him a thief, and start yelling at him, sorry, you're going to get in trouble for that. And you should get in trouble for that. So, I just thought that was pretty stupid. Another thing that I thought was a kind of dumb thing to say. This is not as much of a news story. It's just something that I saw go viral over Twitter. There's this, I don't even know her name, but she put out a status saying that basically public speaking classes should not require their students to go speak in front of the students if they are suffering from anxiety. It's a public speaking class. It's a public speaking class. Now, look, I know that there are people that get really, really nervous in front of students, who get really nervous speaking and things like that, but you've got to do what you got to do. Sometimes you have to do things that you don't want to do, but that's part of life. I mean, I know public speaking for me, it's not necessarily something that I struggled with, obviously. I mean, I'm talking to you right now, not necessarily in front of a crowd, but, I'm used to talking in front of people. I do get nervous, though, sometimes when I'm in front of a crowd, but that's normal. Most people have that. And is this the reason I'm addressing this at all? For one thing, it went viral, so plenty of people are talking about it, and plenty of people are agreeing with that. Not saying the majority are, but plenty are. And to me, this just does not... It's just another example of why my generation, the next generation, are struggling with the whole being an adult or acting like a mature person. And that's not a good thing, obviously. It's not a good thing to say, well, I struggle with this, or I get afraid, so you should just not let me do it, and I'll feel fine. Let me sink back into my comfort zone. No, that's not how life works. It's not how life works. Life isn't fair at all. So, and it's certainly not fair for you to say, well, I'm just not going to speak, and you still pass the class. You still pass public speaking, or frankly, you don't have to take that class because, well, you're just too afraid to do what you need to do. Now, look, I'm not saying that we should ignore people's feelings, or that we shouldn't try to comfort people in a certain way. No, but that's just dumb. So, yeah, people liking that, come on, guys, you're better than that. And another story that I thought was fairly important is this guy by the name of Mac Miller, I believe. The reason I don't know much about him is because he's a rapper, and I don't really listen to rap, but he apparently was a big deal in the rap community and those who like to listen to that kind of music. Well, he died a few days ago because of a drug overdose. And this is someone who is known for taking a lot of drugs. He was a known druggie. And, look, I don't know much about him, but, again, going back to this whole idea of personal responsibility, if you do things like that, expect to suffer for that later in life. If you're going to do stupid things, expect to pay the price for that. And he did. Now, that doesn't mean that I wanted him to die or that I'm like good riddance to him. No, obviously. But at the same time, I'm not throwing a pity party for him because ultimately he reaped what he sowed. And there's one of my conservative friends that I follow on Twitter. She basically put out that same thing, and she was getting excoriated for it, saying, "Oh, you're so cold. How could you dare say something like that?" And I'm thinking, all she said was, "You reap what you sow." That's the whole message. She's not saying I'm glad he's dead. She's just saying, you do stupid things, expect stupid outcomes. That's the truth. That's the truth. Look, we are also at this point in our society where if someone commits suicide, there's an increasing number of people who want to feel sorry for that person and say, "Oh, that's just so awful, or to the point of being like they're the victim somehow. No, that's a selfish thing to do, to kill yourself. That's not to say that if you struggle with something like that it makes you an awful person. No. But ultimately, you still have the ability, you still have the power to be able to resist the ultimate temptation to kill yourself. And this idea that we should be praising people for committing suicide, it's awful. It's even more awful than the suicide itself, because how does that help people who are struggling with that to look for another option? So, if we can agree, at least you and I agree, that it's bad for a society to praise that, we should also agree that it's bad to look the other way when someone makes really bad life choices and they suffer the consequences for it. I mean, look, if someone goes out into the forest and starts messing with a mama bear's cub, are you and I going to be, wailing and bawling because that person got killed by the mama bear who was simply defending her kid? I mean that in a way of, that was so mean for that bear to do that. No, they were defending their kid. It's nature running its course. Well, that's what this is. If you mess with this kind of stuff, nature is going to take its course. Your body obviously doesn't want that in your system. So when you put it there, you're going to die. Again, I'm bringing this up because we have got to stop with the whole victim mentality and saying that, this person is a victim. I'm such a victim. I'm oppressed. No, you're not oppressed. You are not oppressed, especially not here in America. You have the opportunity to make something of yourself. You have the opportunity to get up and be an example to people. You don't have to be stuck in your situation forever. You're not in a caste system. You can be somebody. So, that was just something that I wanted to address. Don't ever fall for that mentality that because you're in a certain situation that you're stuck there. You don't have to be stuck there. There's always hope. Alright, that's going to do it for the Blake Johnson program. I want to thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. Hope you've enjoyed the show. And I really hope that you get some things done this week and have a productive rest of the week and enjoy it with your family and friends. I'll see you back here on Monday. Take care and God bless.